out there in the space will come back to you. It will find you. Karma don't miss. It does not miss. Suits season 1, episode 4, Dirty Little Secrets. 40 plus minutes of whispers and paranoia. Netflix, let's run it back. Welcome back to my channel. It's Liv, living life with locks and learning lessons along the way. And in this episode, it was just so good in the way that some of the secrets were very much on show and some of them kind of flew under the radar a little bit, and you had to be able to spot the facial expressions or pick up on the tone in which people said things. So I think I'm going to tackle this video by going through one secret at a time, who it involves, and what it means in terms of like questions to ask yourself, or even to things to consider as you continue to watch the season and the series, because some of the secrets are they don't necessarily fully come to light or come to the surface, or you don't necessarily get an answer to something that someone is hiding. And I got a very specific example in mind, that's why I say it like that, until further into the series. So this is like beyond season 1. Let's start off with how the episode began. It actually didn't start with a case this time. So unlike the other episodes that I've done so far, so the first 3 episodes, this one didn't start with a specific case. It more started off with some internal affairs at the law firm. Lewis Litt is running some sort of Harvard trivia. So he's playing quizmaster. I feel like all associates are involved, but it's mainly between Mike and this guy named Seth. Now, Seth, I don't really think is really that relevant, because very much like Gregory and some other people that were mentioned in the previous episode, I feel like the series is trying to figure out which of the associates to make relevant. And so it does like this test thing between them and Mike. I'm just talking about the scenes in which Mike engages with fellow associates. Not all of those associates have like a set character profile in the series until further down the line, when there's like Harold. He's one of the guys that's mentioned quite frequently. So I think fellow associates start to cement themselves in the series. But at the moment, it's almost like a trial and error, trying to gauge the chemistry, I guess, between the characters. And some of them just didn't last, like Gregory. And I think Seth doesn't last that long either. So anyway, I feel like the paranoia in Mike is building up, because when the quiz is over, he leaves the room in which they're in. I think they're in a conference room or something. And he runs up to Harvey and is like, I think Lewis Litt knows. I think Lewis Litt knows that I didn't go to Harvard. I don't have a law degree. I didn't go to law school. So it's almost like, because he's being quizzed about the Harvard law student experience, Mike feels like it's Lewis Litt's way of trying to catch him out. And you see this quite a bit until Lewis actually finds out that secret. Now, what I will say about this secret is I don't think this secret is neither dirty nor little. So the secret about Mike not going to law school, not having a law degree, and specifically not going to Harvard, seeing as though this particular firm only hires from Harvard, like only takes on Harvard graduates, I don't think it's little at all. It's the biggest secret of the series. A lot of the series is based around that whole premise. So therefore, it's not little. I don't think really it's dirty either. It's quite clean cut, but it is a huge secret. And I guess it's more a case of all the dirty little secrets, the little tactics that you have to play in order to keep that secret. So that's the first big one that kind of comes to light. I mean, everyone kind of knows that, but I think it's this secret in the context of Lewis and how much he knows. Because at the moment, in this very present moment, only Mike, Harvey, and Donna know about Mike. Throughout the series, different people learn about Mike's journey and where he's at and how he got here and all this kind of stuff. It's interesting. It keeps you exhilarated in terms of like, okay, when is so-and-so going to find out and how are they going to find out? Because Jessica still doesn't know, but it's not really being focused on in terms of her having her suspicions. At the moment, there's a lot more focus on Lewis Litt's suspicions and the way in which he interacts with Mike, which makes Mike feel as though Lewis Litt knows something or he's trying to find out the truth about something. But that's why I say it could be Mike's paranoia. Mike does well at the trivia because his brain is super, super good. And so therefore he knows the answers to the questions, or he knows the best way to answer the questions. He knows how to play the game. He's very astute. He's very quick-witted with things. And so I believe that he's able to dodge certain accusations or wonderings that other people may have, or queries other people may have, because of his level of intellect and the way in which he uses the information that he does have to play off as this character that is doing the right thing when actually he's not. And he makes this kind of comment to Harvey that he thinks that they should hack into the bar and put him in, or hack into Harvard and put his records in, or input some records, which actually happens further down the line. So this is why you just got to keep watching, and you got to listen to every little bit, because things start to add up. It's like, oh. It's like seed dropped, a little idea's been planted, and then it comes into fruition at some point later on down the line. Harvey kind of brushes it off. He has this kind of cool, calm, collected kind of vibe for most of the time. He's very smooth, and he doesn't like other people to know that he's shaken by anything. So whereas Mike has this kind of like panic, I mean, it is him, but I'd say Harvey is equally guilty in this situation. So they're both at fault, almost in equal measure. Yes, it's happening to Mike, so he feels it at a different level to anyone else, but at the same time, he's getting to do what he's always wanted to do, which is to practice law. I am not condoning how he's gone about it, but I can see his side. Mike then wins a pro bono case, so that's basically what was up for grabs with this Harvard trivia. And because Mike performed so well in that trivia, I feel like it's quite informal. It's just like some office banter kind of thing. And so his client is called Frank, I believe. So it's this guy who's a tenant in a building, and the landlord is trying to evict him because he's not paid his rent, but justifiably because Korinsky, which I believe is the name of the landlord, has done something to the apartment, but he hasn't owned up to it. Basically, Frank hasn't paid his rent because he's experiencing an infestation of bedbugs in his apartment. Dirty little secrets, you get what I mean? So it's dirty and little in terms of thinking about bedbugs, thinking about an infestation of anything in your household, in your living quarters, which is making living uncomfortable. But then it's a secret because the landlord hasn't revealed or made it clear that it was him who planted that infestation in the apartment in order to drive out the tenant. But you don't find that out until later on in the episode. So this is why I feel like you need to go watch it and then come back, and then we can unpick it together. So with this episode, that is a big case that Mike is working on. And at the same time, another case that's happening in the law firm is Jessica's ex-husband. So Harvey was a bit shook that Jessica was ever married, let alone divorced and moved on. That's another secret that comes to light, that Jessica had previously been in a long-term committed relationship with a guy called Quentin Sands, or however you pronounce his name. And his face is familiar. He's been in a number of films, but none of those characters are strong enough for me to mention like I've done in previous videos. And then his wife, Lisa, well, it's not his wife actually. He's not married to her, but he is with her, and she is the woman that he had an affair with whilst he was married to Jessica. Separated, yes, I believe, but still married, which, as I alluded to in my previous, well, I didn't even allude to it. I said it point blank, period. I do not agree with cheating or adultery for any reason. Lisa, Miss Lisa, this actress I recognize. It's funny how in this TV series, in this episode, because I don't think she comes up again. I don't believe she comes up again. If she does, it will be further down the line and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But in this episode, she is not a wife to Quentin, but she's in a relationship with him. But what I've seen her in is the films Why Did I Get Married and Why Did I Get Married To? And in that series, I think she does have an affair. She just seems miserable. The actress tends to play miserable characters, I would say. I never really see like genuine joy from her. So as Miss Lisa, who also has a secret, so as well as Jessica having a secret that she kept from Harvey, so she didn't tell Harvey all her business, Quentin kept a secret from Jessica whilst they were married, that he actually started his affair. He actually started seeing Lisa whilst he was still with Jessica, technically, legally. Then he also has kept a secret from Jessica that he has ALS. So he is suffering from that disease, or he did at one point, but he didn't come to Jessica until his drug company needed to have some legal representation for whatever he's trying to make continue in his business. And then Lisa kept a secret from Quentin that one of the trials didn't give a favorable result, and therefore she removed it from the processing that they were doing in order to get FDA approval for their drug, etc. All these little details you can pick up when you watch the episode and then come back here. All those are like secrets to sub-secrets to sub-secrets, which is, it's like a matrix of secrets. And they are dirty and little secrets, because usually when there's like cheating or betrayal involved, it would be considered a dirty little secret. So you've got all of those like subsets of secrets, which is fascinating. You kind of need to keep up. Going back to the case with Mike, because that I'd say those two cases dominate the episode. On picking the episode a bit more, I would say it's like, one, just tell the truth, right? Just be honest, just be straight up and be above board. And the thing about being above board is I feel like the landlord was so shallow. Like, why would you plant something in an apartment to get someone out? Like, I think that's horrible. Like, there's a complete lack of humanity there. And I know that people like this exist, which is so unfortunate. And it's not a case of me being like naive and wanting to live or expecting the world to be this like happy, joyful place all the time and everyone to be good people. But it does call into question how people can have the audacity to intentionally make someone else's life extremely uncomfortable. Why? When you could just be like straight up and say, I don't want you to live in my property anymore, and give a solid reason why. But you don't need to go to the extent of making the place inhabitable for that tenant. Like, that's just foul. I know there's not the best tenants around as well, like in actual real life. I know that there are tenants who are very disrespectful to people's property. It comes down to you as a person, whether you're a tenant or a landlord. Have some respect. It starts with self-respect. With that case, what I really liked was the way that the camera did something that you saw in the pilot. So in the pilot episode, I talked about how the camera will show you things that Mike would then call upon in his memory at the time in which he needs them. And you saw that again in this episode when the landlord came round to the apartment where the tenant was, and Mike happened to be visiting as well. And it showed you, it's like the camera panned downwards to the landlord's feet, where he was going to step inside the apartment, but he didn't quite put his foot down. Now, because I've watched the series multiple times, I was able to pick up on that this time. Whereas when I first watched it, I probably wouldn't have thought too much about it. I probably wouldn't even have seen it. This could have been a moment when, I don't know, you go to take a sip of your drink, or you look at a different place in the room that you're watching the series in, where your attention is not fully on the episode. That's what I'm saying. Like, these things can happen when you have like little distractions. But because I'm intentionally watching the episode now, like, I'm even more intentional with the way that I watch it, because I want to be able to like pick things up and pull things apart so that I can then comment on it and share it with you. So I did see on this occasion, and it's not until later on in the episode that Mike and Rachel are playing pretend marriage, which is another like thing that's coming up in terms of like another person who got a secret that is not revealed in this episode, but it does come out at some point. They are playing pretend marriage. They're playing house basically, and they're acting as if they are a couple looking for an apartment. And then Mike starts looking at some pictures and he picks up on the carpet, and he learns, putting two and two together, landlord not stepping into the tenant's apartment. Okay, there's a bedbugs infestation. Where is it? It's in the carpets. Putting those pieces together and being like, this is what the landlord has been doing in order to get people out. Sometimes it's like reading the facial expressions of the characters. There's something, the cogs are turning. There's something that they are puzzling over in their head, and it's staying on top of each and every storyline and the direction it's going in, left, right, forward, back. Sometimes it's a bit of a reverse, which is what Mike is doing. He will reverse through or rewind through his experiences, his conversations, what he's read, where he's been, what he's observed, and then fast forward it back to the present and be like, bet those two things add up, or those two things do not add up. Talking about micro expressions, when I was watching this episode, there was a scene when Mike and Harvey and Quentin was going to meet a man who I believe works as part of either the FDA or another drug company that is going up against or challenging or has some level of involvement in the Quentin Sands case. When the three of them walk in, Quentin, Harvey Specter, and Mike Ross, the other man, the man on the other side of the table, one, refuses to shake Mike's hand, and two, refers to him as a child, which is really disrespectful. Like, it's super disrespectful. It was a very outward way of expressing how he sees, values, perceives Mike. Now, Mike is a grown man in his own right, is a professional, so he kept moving through the meeting. But you do see at one point where he goes to wipe his eye and he uses his middle finger to wipe his eye, and it made me think of a TV series called Lie to Me, which is focused on people's facial expressions. I don't know if you've heard of it, but if you haven't, I'd definitely say it's worth checking out. It shows how people use their body language to express things, even when they're not aware of what they're doing. So it could be the way that your eyes move. It could be the way that your mouth moves. It could be the hand gestures that you do. So Mike may not even have been aware that he used his middle finger to wipe his eye, but he did use his middle finger to wipe his eye, which is communication in itself. And that's why they say most communication is non-verbal, which you can completely understand, because even without saying something, your facial expressions and your body movements could be saying a lot or could be speaking volumes. That was something that I picked up in the episode as well. And I feel like as a character set, I do believe that Jessica has a lot of facial expressions that she gives off that communicates things, which has been very intriguing to pick up on this occasion. But what is also interesting is that a lot of these expressions are quite personal. It's like immediate human reactions to things that you hear or experience. But when you consciously disrupt that thought process, that's why you don't necessarily communicate what you're really thinking. And so this is where dishonesty can come in, lies can come in, and secrets can develop, because it's like, you know the truth in your head, but you don't necessarily communicate it through words, or you don't confess. There is a part where Jessica says, talking to Harvey, we keep personal things personal, because Harvey also doesn't really talk about his personal life that much. And so she used that as a reason, or as not a justification, but she used it to explain why she didn't tell him about her being married and then divorced, because it's like, you don't talk about your business either, so why do you think that I'm gonna tell you about mine? So as close as we are professionally and as close as we've become personally, Mike at one point refers to Jessica and Harvey as mom and dad. It's like mom and dad are arguing, mom and dad are having a disagreement. But it's like, even with the proximity of their relationship that there's developed over the years, there's still things you don't know about me, and there's still things I don't know about you. And I don't have any entitlement to that information, irrespective of how close we are. So that is like an undercurrent secret as well, or it's more a case of an explanation or a justification or an understanding for why some things are secret by default, not secret based on intention. They are secret by default, because it's like, you may deem it a secret, but I'm not intentionally keeping this away from you. I'm recognizing that this is something that you do not have a level of clearance for. Does that make sense? It gets that deep for me. It really gets that deep. When I'm watching these episodes, I'm like, my brain is processing it in terms of, what does this mean in real life context? Can I be compassionate to the way in which others choose to navigate their life in different situations? and their business. Yes, with time or with greater understanding. Checking my notes before I get onto Rachel, because there's a seed planted around her in this episode. I'm going to talk about Vivian Tanaka. So Vivian Tanaka is opposing counsel to Mike on this housing court case about the bedbugs. What Vivian Tanaka's character made extremely clear in this episode was that sometimes it's about the lawyer you have on the case, not about the case itself. Because Mike updates Harvey on the case he's working on, mentions the lawyer that's involved, and that makes Harvey think, hold a minute, if that lawyer is on the case, then there's definitely something to investigate there, because she represents a number of the high-rise buildings in the area, and therefore if she's involved with this case, there may be something that you need to check out or research or find out why. There may actually be some digging worth doing in this. And so it shows that it's not just about the individual clients and cases, but sometimes it's almost like the lawyers need to know who the other lawyers are in either their sectors, industries that they operate in, or just knowing who else exists out there in the space and what cases they tend to represent on, like tend to be a part of. So lawyers carry with them a reputation as well, as you would know, as you would expect. But I think I mentioned it in the previous video about how sometimes it's about lawyer versus lawyer. It's not even about client versus client, where the lawyers are involved to support their client. Sometimes it's about the lawyers getting one up on each other. So you definitely did kind of understand that penny drop moment in this episode as well. I don't like Vivian. I don't like how she was speaking to Mike. Mike was spoken down to quite a bit in this episode, because she actually says something to him about like, you never forget your first time. And so when you think of like your first time, that can be considered a dirty little secret when you're thinking of everyday dialogue and what the first time usually references. So there was like these little hints of Mike being, or people perceiving Mike as being immature, inexperienced, or young, or still in development. So there were those kind of sub-contexts that were embedded in this episode, which was quite fascinating to pick up on, note down, and process, and be like, okay, how can I learn from this, or what does this tell me? And it's like people can really like underestimate you, because Mike ends up winning the case, and even Vivian is a bit like, even she didn't know what her client was really up to. Karinsky, the guy, the landlord who implanted the bed bugs, even she did not know that man was doing that. And so she was kind of put off by it, because Mike brings the carpet into her offices, and she starts to say what it was a violation of by Mike bringing that carpet piece in. And it's like everything she said is everything that gives Mike a case against her client, because that's exactly what he did. What you're accusing Mike of doing is exactly what your client did. And it's almost like karma, like full circle moment. It was karma. She got what was coming to her, and her client Karinsky got what was coming to him. So this is why it's like, live good with people. Honestly, live good with people, because what energy you put out there in the space will come back to you. It will find you at some point in some format. May not come to you in the same way that you delivered it, but believe me, it's coming. Karma don't miss. It does not miss. That is what I took from this episode. Karma will come back round. It will come back round. Honestly, it will deliver. So Rachel. So her and Mike have been flirting quite a lot in this episode. Even though she, again, the micro expressions, she was very evidently and obviously uncomfortable when her and Mike were going to view apartments as if they were this newly married couple. Even though she expressed her discomfort, they managed to get through the apartment viewing, etc., and get the information that they needed in order to, it was all a part of their research and making progress in the case. And so then when they are then at the end of their case, and Mike and Rachel have this moment whereby Mike is kind of transitioning their fake relationship into making a move or taking a step forward in their real life relationship, because he wants to date her, he wants to explore something with her, but she has been a bit resistant to it, but they've been flirting quite a bit. So basically they were fake married, and then they were joking about what anniversary they have coming up. And so Mike made a suggestion in the real life, Mike and Rachel, to go on a date. Rachel, you could see that she wanted to say yes. You can see throughout this entire episode that she wants to date Mike. You could even see in previous episodes, and we haven't even really got into the depths of this series, being still in season 1 and this being episode 4. But for some reason, she is holding back. It's not even a playing hard to get at this point. There is clearly something that is stopping her from dating Mike, and it kind of comes to light at the end of the episode, the last scene with them, where she says she cannot or she doesn't date anyone at the office, but she doesn't say why. So this plants, it's almost like at the end of the episode, another secret is planted, because then you wonder, what is Rachel's reason for not dating at the office? Not saying it's something you have to explain. There are a lot of people who have that rule where they don't like to blur a boundary. So at work, they don't play, and in play, they don't work. But there's clearly more to the story, which does come to light, I think, several seasons in, I believe. Well, it's almost like it builds. The information builds. So you learn a bit, and then you learn a bit more, and then you learn a bit more, and then you learn a bit more. And it's not until her and Mike are like fully fledged couple, like fully together and everything, that there's something, that more information that comes in that kind of starts to blow that up. And then there's tug of wars again. It's going in so many different directions, and I like how each character is developing in their own way and they're leading on their own storylines. I'm definitely excited to move through season 1 because it is such a foundation setter. It's so good. It's so good. So if you do want to continue unpicking this series with me, then please like, comment and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss an episode, a season or a series, because I'm not just doing Suits. I'll be doing other series, especially ones that I've mentioned where I've seen characters that have played other characters in other series. Yeah, this is getting good. This is definitely growing. Thank you for watching another video on Must Watch Gotta Learn. You can find more commentary for Suits season 1 on my channel, and if you want to be the first to watch any new season or series, then subscribe to my channel. On Must Watch Gotta Learn, we turn our favorite fictional TV series into real life lessons. It has never been more fun to binge watch a rerun.